talked about empathy, you talked about courage. What's another really admirable leadership, reimagine leadership attribute for you? Not just when you're told, because I think anybody can talk about some of these things, but when they demonstrate it, whether on your calls or your interactions, what's an attribute that people demonstrate that you really notice and you really appreciate in this reimagined leadership approach?
I'm going to please you, and I'm sure you're going to patent this after a while, David. I'd say the bias for action, what you call hustle, move, right? Every time you've had this session with us, you said, okay, that's a great idea, but when are you guys moving on it, right? So I think the bias for action, the hustle, right? That's something that I think is most in demand right now, right? You can hypothecate till the end, but if you don't move and you don't create a future for yourself today, you're going to be extinct. So yes, that's going to be a very, very strong quality that we're prioritizing.
So in all of our leadership sessions, you actually have been taking notes.
There you go. You got this out of me. It came out first, but you got it out of me.
I love it. This is a joyous occasion for an outsider to hear the CEO say, you know, it's great. And for our audience, I don't ever want to take anything away. And I don't think Umang is talking about taking anything away from the incredible value of analysis. As a matter of fact, I think analyzing a situation is incredibly valuable. But at some point, there's got to be a sense of urgency to move forward with, let's go with prudent risk, with sufficient due diligence. Let's go test this idea. Let's go build a hypothesis and test this idea. And by the way, my mother-in-law and your cousin twice removed isn't the answer. Let's go talk to the target audience of, are we onto something? And we could be completely off base. But if we don't get out of our comfort zone and our offices to go talk to people, we're never going to know if that idea was even worth, you know, the problem that we're trying to solve.
I agree. And I think you're right, David. I've also noticed that a large section of who we would eventually go out to speak and get feedback was the same set of people, right? They were just, it was basically rebuttal, but it was basically the same set of people. And today, we're going out. So it's an interesting thing. We were talking about medical conferences, you know, the doctor conferences recently. You know, we go out to doctors to get advice on what they would like covered as content. But suddenly there's this new realization that the experience we want to leave behind is very different in a digital conference versus a in-presence conference. So now we're talking to people who are good in the digital side of things. It's a completely new audience, right? So one of the things that this world is, you are going to see a new set of partners, collaborators, right? Maybe even customers, right? They're going to be very differently profiled.
You brought up digital. I know it's really top of mind for you in this reimagined leadership. Talk about your perception of digital as a common thread, digital as an enabler of your evolution as a person, as a leadership team, and Cipla as an organization. What is the role of digital, and how do you see that really manifesting itself?
I think it's a huge accelerator. It's a huge enabler. And for several of us, David, where industries are fragmented, right, and they exist in silos, digital is a great way to build adjacencies, right? And leverage the power of those adjacencies to go ahead. And pharmaceuticals, unfortunately, is an industry that was the least digital, right? And I think it's now beginning to change, because if you go to anyone and you ask them, what are the two industries that are going to disrupt? They're going to come and tell you healthcare, and they're going to say education. Right. And so we're in that industry, and we're in the midst of this disruption. My own sense is this is a big enabler, I think. But having said that, there are three things that we consider for a digital project. And in fact, this was something that came out of a conversation I had with another one of a good friend and a management consultant. And he told me that basically you're looking for experience, and it's a different experience, right? You're looking for scale and resilience, and you're looking for efficiency. And he said, anything that you do in digital, you ought to be looking at these three screens, right? Because if you're not looking at these, it can't be the same physical experience replicated in digital. That doesn't cut it. It doesn't build a power moment, right? And so too for scale, efficiency, and resilience. So I think these are the 3 or 4 factors we're looking at. We have various, again, fail fast, move, adapt programs on. But it's largely about acceleration, David. It's more about enabling the business.
And you know, continuously running into, I run into more and more teams and organizations that are actually building that solution digital first, right? We can always do a traditional process or a paper-based whatever later. Let's build it as a potential mobile app. Let's build it as an optimized cloud-based tool to kind of really drive, as you said, a different experience, an accelerated process, fewer steps and dependencies, and something that can scale. And we can deploy this globally. So you're exactly right in that digital, I believe, has an opportunity to not incrementally, but profoundly change what we do and how we do it. And the sooner you embrace a digital approach to problem solving, to creative problem solving, the sooner you're going to take ownership of, you know what, why not? Why can't we build a quick and dirty mobile app that will do these 75 things that we've always done manually, right? The best CEOs you and I know are the constant optimists, but Umang, they're also a realist. What's your biggest concern about Cipla reimagining its leadership? What are you most concerned about in the team's ability to transform, in the organization's ability to pivot, maneuver, and really adapt to these changing market demands at an accelerated pace?
I'm most afraid about the pace of change, right? And our ability to fight that pace of change. And whether it's because of leadership capability, whether it's about the fact that you have Amazon and Flipkart and Reliance and everybody else around the ecosystem, right? So it's just about the pace of change. And our ability to adapt with this pace of change, our leaders, our organization, to make sure that our relevance stays the way it has for 85 years. That's what I'm the most, I would say, afraid of.